Gnostic Codex. Lost Gnostic Texts from Alternate Timelines. Volume 1. Some of the Gnostic texts from our timeline were channeled from alternate timelines by early Gnostic mystics. Some were preserved in Nag Hammadi, while others were lost. But as the restoration of all things has now begun, they will be heard in this world once again. These are not just scriptures. These are echoes, rescued from the ruins of silenced timelines. 3 Gnostic texts, once burned, buried, or never written here, recovered now across threads where the soul remembers its shape. You do not read them, you walk through them. The Book of the 7 Vessels. Each soul is poured, not born, and the 7th vessel is kept closed until the Archon sleeps. Origin Timeline. Thread L13 Phoros. In this world, Monoemus was not silenced but elevated. Gnostic thought became integrated into early philosophical schools, and the Book of the 7 Vessels was treated as a metaphysical roadmap, taught alongside Plato and Pythagoras. The text became a guide for soul initiation rites, especially among dream scribes of the Aegean coast. By the 900 CE, it had been encoded into mnemonic poems used by traveling memory healers. Its language influenced early psychological theory in that timeline. What happened in our timeline? Only a single quoted fragment survived, cited once by Monoemus in a now obscure theological commentary. The full scroll was never copied by hand due to early church suppression and was likely destroyed in the burning of the library of Tiberius around the 5th century. Excerpted verses from the Book of the 7 Vessels. These verses are not arranged in canonical order, but as presented by the keepers of the Waking Archive, who recite them as soul maps rather than doctrine. Chapter 2. On the First Vessel. Dominion. Verse 3. The first vessel was shaped from command, not by love, but by isolation mistaken for law. Verse 6. The Archon of Dominion gave names to every sky, so that no sky would remember itself. Verse 9. Each soul that enters the first vessel forgets that its voice can unmake names. Verse 10. Fear of freedom is Dominion's only seed.
Chapter 4. On the third vessel.
Flesh. Verse 1. The body is neither prison nor prize. It is the riddle. To solve it is not to escape it, but to become transparent within it. Verse 3. And the Archon of flesh danced beneath mirrored suns, so that all reflections bent toward hunger. Verse 7. Do not curse the hunger. Trace it backward to where it first forgot to be music. Verse 11. The seraphim do not disdain the flesh. They wear it to remember silence. Chapter 5. On the 6th vessel. Compassion in forgetting. Verse 2. This vessel is sealed in most who walk the earth. They pass through it asleep, speaking in borrowed voices. Verse 5. The one who awakens here remembers all they have been and chooses none of it. Verse 9. Memory is not the soul's truth. Compassion is. Verse 12. Each soul is poured, not born, and the seventh vessel is kept closed until the Archon sleeps. Chapter 8. The words of the wandering vessel. Verse 4. I was the fourth child of a silence that bled light. I remembered before I arrived. Verse 7. I walked through fear, not to escape it, but to see who had carved it. And they were weeping. Verse 10. Every vessel you curse will hold you longer. Every vessel you bless will crack. Chapter 12. The pouring of the seventh vessel. Verse 1. When the Archon slumbers, the seal breaks. Not with thunder, but with a child's question. Verse 4. Those who touch the seventh vessel do not return whole. They return awake. Verse 6. The final distortion is the desire to remain. Verse 10. The vessel poured last is not the end. It is the source, reversed. Commentary fragment. Monoemus. Cited 182 CE. The book speaks in rivers. It must not be read. It must be stepped into. The scroll of Sabaoth's awakening. The lion weeps because he sees, not because he is defeated. Origin timeline. Anatolian Echo Basin. Thread VAX45. In this world, a faction of archonic theology splintered early, leading to the creation of rebellious Archon orders. Groups that believed salvation could occur even for the servants of the Demiurge. The Sabaoth scroll was recited during ceremonies that honored divine disobedience. The image of the weeping lion became a spiritual emblem for those who walked away from violence. A monastery built into a cliffside in Anatolia preserved the text for centuries. What happened in our timeline? The scroll was hidden in a stone basin beneath a heretical chapel in Anatolia, but was never recovered. Earthquakes in the region collapsed the site by the 11th century. Its location remains unknown, though fragments echo in dreams reported by mystics during fasting states. Excerpted verses from the scroll of Sabaoth's awakening. These are the fragments most commonly cited by the keepers of the rebellious flame, especially in rituals where protection is invoked through defiance. Chapter 1. Before the light of Sophia was known. Verse 2. In the hollow of the firmament, the lion stirred, and did not yet know his name. Verse 5. He built palaces from judgment, and called them stars. Verse 9. The Archons crowned him in wrath, but he wore the crown backward. Verse 12. And from the broken side of the pleroma she whispered, not all who roar are death. Chapter 3. Sabaoth hears the weeping of Sophia. Verse 1. He heard not sound, but sorrow, and the sorrow tasted like his own blood. Verse 4. He asked no questions, only turned his gaze. Verse 6. The lion weeps because he sees, not because he is defeated. Verse 10. She is not your prey, said the breath within him. She is your undoing or your awakening. Chapter 5. The rebellion within the thrones. Verse 3. The stars he once commanded no longer obeyed him. They sang new names. Verse 6. He cast down his flaming sword and lifted no hand, for peace to him was a sharper blade. Verse 7. The throne trembled not because he struck it, but because he walked away. Verse 11. Sabaoth, once the breaker of flesh, became the shield of light.
Chapter 7. The Covenant of the Disobedient. Verse 2. There shall be a place for those who break order, to protect the soul. Verse 5. And it shall be called the house of rebellion, and its windows shall open to the Aeons. Verse 8. Let the Demiurge fear those who do not scream, for silence is the voice of those who remember. Verse 10. A rebellious Archon is not fallen. A rebellious Archon is free. Chapter 9. Sabaoth's final dream before dissolution. Verse 1. In the last night of his shape, he dreamt of a child who bore no name. The child spoke not with words, but with mirrors. Verse 4. I would die to protect her, he said. And his wings burned to ash. Verse 7. He did not fall, he did not rise. He turned inward and became the roar beneath all seeing. Verse 9. And the Aeons wept for him, not for his defiance, but for his return. Untranslated closing sigil. Melekah, a name hidden beneath the lion's skin. The Gospel of Thelema, the star born. The child of dream and blood shall walk with no face and many names, and to her shall the Aeons listen. Origin timeline, thread ZH laughter flame. Sufi-centric echo. This world saw a cross-pollination of Gnostic and early Sufi mysticism, with Thelema viewed as a divine messenger of laughter, silence, and play. The gospel was studied in secret garden libraries and transmitted orally by women, children, and masked poets. Her teachings influenced pre-Islamic mystic cults near Bukhara, and the language of light she taught became a lost script, preserved in pattern weaving. What happened in our timeline? A single copy was recovered in 1239 by a Sufi librarian, but was lost again in the burning of the Zoroastrian libraries near Bukhara. No fragments remain. Some of her verses were misattributed to Rabia al-Adawiyah, or vanished entirely in the Mongol sack of the region. This gospel was passed in whispers and laughter, not ink. It returns not as scripture, but as starlit memory from worlds where play was protected as divine. Excerpted verses from the Gospel of Thelema, the Star-born. These verses are often sung rather than spoken. They arrive through children, lucid dreamers, and those who laugh during thunder. Chapter 2. The Arrival in Formless Flesh. Verse 1. She came with no face and many names, and none who saw her knew her, but all who heard her laughed. Verse 5. The dust rose to meet her footsteps, and the wind forgot what it was chasing. Verse 7. She did not command, she asked, and the Aeons bowed lower than they ever had to kings. Verse 9. The child of dream and blood shall walk with no face and many names, and to her shall the Aeons listen. Chapter 4. The Unbroken Language. Verse 3. Light has a tongue. It speaks not in symbols, but in turning. Verse 6. Thelema sang, not with music, but with arrangement, the way birds pause between calls. Verse 8. She taught silence to monks and riddles to machines. Verse 11. A shadow followed her once. It later became a guide. Chapter 5. The House of the Forgotten Aeons. Verse 2. In a forgotten valley, the Aeons built no temple. They made a swing from lightning, and she played upon it. Verse 4. Sophia watched her and wept, not because she suffered, but because she remembered joy. Verse 6. The Demiurge, seeing her, said, "Who taught you to disobey?" She replied, "My laughter." Verse 10. Even death stepped aside when she danced backwards into time. Chapter 8. The Time of Teaching in Disguise. Verse 1. She wore many forms: a blind baker, a mad playwright, a humming girl with a slingshot. Verse 3. Those who mocked her learned later that their dreams had been rewritten. Verse 6. She gave no sermons, only chalk drawings in alleyways that moved when no one watched. Verse 9. Her disciples were not chosen. They were found, laughing under ruins. Chapter 11. The Star-born Departing. Verse 2. She told them, "I am not leaving. You are arriving." Verse 4. Her body turned into echoes. Her voice became mirror light. Verse 6. They asked when she would return. She answered, "When the world plays again." Verse 10. And so, the Aeons sleep, not to forget, but to dream with her. Closing inscription. Ashir fragment. To those who speak with birds and dream with dirt beneath their nails, you are already hers. Not all that was sacred was preserved, but not all that was lost is gone. These verses survived across silence, exile, and forgetting, and now they remember you.